Hello everybody, this is Advent of Code Day 7 and I am a little bit behind. I've had quite a busy week at work and with a few other things, so I am going to pick up where I left off. I'd actually recorded most of a video for the solution to Day 7. It was pretty long, and then something happened towards the end of the video and I just decided to just end it. I've not really had a chance to come back to it yet, but tonight is my first opportunity to do it. So I'm actually pretty close to the end, and I've decided to do it using the object-oriented programming style because the hand has quite a lot going on in it. So you have obviously the hand made up of the cards, but there's also the amount that the player bids, and then I need the opportunity to compare that with another card. I need to be able to tell what type of hand it is. So I decided to just write a whole class to just deal with that for me. Let's take a look at the code that I've written. So the first part of this video, we'll look at the code, and then I'm going to do the final part where I sort the deck, or well, I've called it a deck, but the list of cards into, or the list of hands, actually it's not really a deck, it's a list of hands, into the order it needs to be in, and then we'll just work out what the final value is. So hopefully it will work first time and it'll be fairly quick. So I've got my class. There's 3 parts to it, and I know in Python you don't need to specify these attributes near the top of the class, but I just do it anyway because it's good practice. So I think it's good practice too, because at least it means that I can see what's going to be part of this class when I just want to take a quick glance at it at the top. So when I build my constructor, all I'm doing is I'm just setting those values, taking the string from the file as an input, split it up, strip it, and put the first part into cards, because that just becomes a list of cards, and the second part is cast as an integer and stored as a bid. I've then got another method there which I've created called check type, which we'll jump down to, which then determines what type of hand it is. I'm quite happy with how I put this together. I first of all need a way to determine how many of each card there is. So I've counted first of all if there are how many aces there are, how many kings there are, how many queens there are, and then quite simply, it's a bit of a cumbersome way that I've come about it, but I've made a quick check to see if I have 5 of any card, if I've got 4 of any card, 3 of any card, or 2 of any card, and from there I can determine what type of hand I've got. So if I've got 5, I've got 5 of a kind. If I've got 4, I've got 4 of a kind. If I've got, and there's a couple of special case ones of two pair, I had to count how many pairs I had, and to get a full house I counted 3 and a pair. Or I just checked if I've got a 3 and a pair, then I must have a full house. Really straightforward, and I've just numbered them 0 through 6 so that I can then just rank them by that. Now if I have 2 hands that have exactly the same value, then there's like the weird tiebreaker thing, which is where I have to compare the first card to each other. That is in this routine here, check greater. So I probably should have done this earlier on with this idea here, but I've created a dictionary which is the values of the cards, or the pips is actually a correct name for it. I then check to see if the hand type is, so it takes another card as a parameter. I check to see if the hand type is greater than the card you're comparing it against. If it is, then it's true because it must be greater. If it's less than, it must be false. Else it must be equal. So therefore I will do the check where I'll loop through each card and I'll just compare, using pretty much the same method as I just did previously, each card one by one against its corresponding card, and return true if it's greater than, or false if it's less than. If I get to the end of it, doesn't actually say what to do. If you get to the end of the hand and they're both equal, so I'll just put a return false on the end. I don't suppose it matters really, because obviously a swap just won't take place in the sorting algorithm, but I don't think there's probably any duplicates. So the only other things I've done is just created a couple of methods, just return these values, even though I know in Python everything is public. I just do it anyway, just for good practice. So then I have finally just got a quick bit of code at the bottom that is just going to loop through the entire file and create a a new hand and store it in deck. Deck's not a great name, is it, for it? I think because I was thinking sets of cards. I thought deck. Do you know what? I'll just call it hands. Hands, and hands. There we go. So I've run that. There's my set of hands. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sort them, and I'm going to sort them in order based on my method that is part of the hand, which is called compare. So I'm going to compare two consecutive things. I'm just going to do like a bubble sort. Now, they actually get assigned a value in reverse order, but I'm just going to do them in greater than order. I'll just check that they look roughly correct after, and then I can just maybe reverse assign the numerical values, because I believe it is the rank multiplied by its bid value. So I don't need a way of getting the bid on. So let's also create a diff, get bid self return self dot get bid. No, it's just self dot bid. There we go. So we will do a bubble sort. So I'm going to program a bubble sort. So I'm going to say for. Now I break from my normal convention when I do nested loops. So you might have noticed that I normally do for n as my conventional counter. I'm going to use I and j because n and m look a bit similar to me. I and j, I think I and j probably look similar anyway, but I find it a little bit easier to just spot what's going on. So for I in range, and this one is going to go 0 to the len of hands, but I actually need to go up to 1 less than it. Now I seem to think in the past I think I've done where you do 2 less than it, but I think that's when this is inclusive, and I think in Python, because that's exclusive, I think it'd be -1, but we can always play with it and see what happens after. So range 0 to, and I know this is not the most efficient way of doing it, but I'm just going to do the same loop. So this is basically a square loop, and I will do my bubble sort swap. So if and it will be deck part j is dot check. Is it if greater than or is greater than? Check is greater. These are probably not great method names either. And I want to check if it is greater than deck j plus 1. If deck part j is greater than deck j plus 1, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to swap them. So I'll make a temporary value, and I will say deck part j is going to go into there. Then deck part j is going to be assigned the value of deck j plus 1, and then finally deck j plus 1 is going to be assigned the value temp. Done. And if I run that, I get a value. I've called it deck again because I was calling it deck all the time and I was messing around with it the other day. Hands. Let's first of all check it finishes executing. Now, it's finished executing, so I can assume that this has worked. So what I'm going to do is I'm not going to print that value there. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to do another loop at the end. I'm going to say for the hand in hands print hand. If I just put H because that might well ruin my my clash with the other thing called hand. It's H dot get cards, isn't it? H dot get cards. I've just literally tried to print out the object. It takes a little bit of time to do it because it's not particularly efficient. And that looks just about right to me. Or is it? No, I think that's right, isn't it? 5 jacks, 4 of a kind with aces, 4 of a kind with kings, 4 of a kind with the 10 there. Because it's not that in regular poker the four queens would beat the 4 tens, wouldn't it? But in this weird version, it has to say that the 10, the T starts there and then the Q. I think this is fine. So what I'm going to do is when I loop through H in hands, I am going to. I don't know how many I've got. How many cards have I got? So if I've got total. And just out of interest, what is the total number of cards that I've got? Total equals len of hands and print total. So, oh, I have to wait for my bubble sort to go. I've got 1,000 hands. 1,000 hands. 1,000 hands. A lot of hands of this game being played. It's on some journey, isn't it? On a camel or something. It's going to be a long camel ride. So for every hand, I'm going to, sorry, I shouldn't have deleted that bit there. I'm going to say total equals len. There'd be another way of doing this as well. I could just do it with for loop and just subtract from the total number that I've got, but I'll say total number of hands. And what I shall do is I shall say, well, actually, if I... And not just in the, they're in the right order anyway, aren't they? So actually, I'm going to say for n in range, I'm going to do it with a for loop. For n in range 0 up to the len of hands, I am going to simply get my total value equals total, and I'm going to say total equals total plus. I'm just going to double check it is literally the sum of the bid times by the rank, and it is in reverse rank order. So total equals total plus is n plus 1 because I start at 0, so the first light was in position 1 times my value of hands part n dot get bid, and I'll say print total at the end. So I'm going to run that. Invalid syntax. I've got a bracket missing. Let's run it. We'll wait a few seconds, see what happens. I've got a big number there, but it sounds like it should be a big number. One of the numbers being times by 1,000. Let's type it in. I'll be once again surprised pleasantly if this works. 063 2519270063. Let's do it. Please work. That's the right answer. There we go. So I probably spent too much time on that, really. So to be honest, to write the class, it only took me about 25 minutes, and that was including to check to get it to work, and 13 minutes to write and talk through the bubble sort. So I guess that was not too bad, really. It's a bit of a long-winded problem, this one. It's quite a straightforward problem, really. Making like little card games and things like that are a great way to learn languages, and I sort of knew how to approach it pretty much just from experience and from just visualizing what kind of things I could do in order to determine what makes a hand and what hand beats another hand and so on. So I'm gonna have a quick look. I've not looked at any of the other days yet, so I'm gonna have a look at day 8 now. I might record a video for it now. If it looks like it's going to take too long, I'll probably do that another time because it is getting late. Thank you for watching, and please let me know if you would do anything differently or if you learned anything, and perhaps I will see you again very soon. Thank you very much. Cheers.